Welcome to Your Eye Show. I'm optometrist Dr. Ed Wallington, and today we're going to talk about virtual reality, okay? And something in particular called the Vergence-Accommodation Conflict. To understand what the Vergence-Accommodation Conflict is, though, first you got to kind of understand how our eye works naturally in the real world, not the virtual world, okay? Normally when we're looking at something far away, we have both eyes open, both eyes work, our eyes are relaxed when we're looking far away, okay? Our eyes are pretty much in alignment, our lines of sight are parallel, okay? And our eyes, our focus system is relaxed, and our pupils are pretty much round, big and round. The closer we look at something, the more our eyes have to cross to keep that target fixated, all right? And in response, our muscles also have to focus to change our lens so we can keep that image in focus, okay? And then our pupils get smaller to help keep the light rays nice and crisp. Okay, that's called our accommodative reflex. Our accommodative reflex helps us track targets as they loom towards us and recede away from us. Okay, the opposite happens when things go away. Our lines of sight uncross, our focus system relaxes, our pupil goes back to big. Okay, that's a natural accommodative reflex. Our brain actually connects these three because in the natural world this always happens. These are all needed together. All right. In the virtual world, when we put on one of these, well, our focus system doesn't work the same way. Matter of fact, right now, our focus system is set at a certain distance, usually about, somewhere between 1 and 2 meters. So on average, let's just say 133 centimeters. Okay. That's the focus system distance for a virtual reality headset, but it's always there, whether you're looking far or near. So our vergence works the same, but our accommodation has to work differently, okay? So in order to really fully understand it, let's evaluate each one of these components individually, okay? So let's start off with understanding what vergence is, and then let's talk about accommodation in some of its things. Let's talk about the accommodative reflex, and then let's go on and talk about the Vergence-Accommodation Conflict and how we may actually make that better, and does it actually hurt our eyes? Okay, so let's go. So first let's talk about vergence. So vergence is the eyes moving inwards or outwards. All right, so let's break apart the word vergence first. So vergence is based off the word verge. Okay, in a verb form, it means to move in some direction. So if we add the prefix of con to vergence, convergence, con means together. So to move in a together direction, that means that our eyes are converging, turning inwards. Okay. If we add the prefix di to vergence, then di means apart. So that would mean that to move the eyes in a outward or in a apart direction. So the lines of sight will uncross. All right. So convergence is the lines of sight will cross, and divergence is the lines of sight uncross. Okay. So this is important that, so we have this convergence and divergence. This is important to actually maintain fixation on a target as it looms closer or recedes. All right. Now notice that each eye has to move in opposite directions. The right eye has to move this way to the left, and the left eye has to move to the right. So they actually have to move opposite of each other, okay, to maintain fixation. Okay, and they have to do that because the eyes are actually separated by a distance of about 6 centimeters. Okay, this creates disparity, meaning there's a different image that's received in the right eye than there is in the left eye. A little bit of a difference in the image. All right, so when we're looking at something that's really far away, for the most part, our lines of sight are parallel. Our lines of fixation are parallel. The lines of sight are not crossing. All right, but as something gets closer, our eyes have to turn in a little bit. They have to converge, and the lines of sight now have become crossed. Okay, when our eyes converge. Okay, and this creates two different angles. They create, so our eyes actually are going to be able to triangulate how far away something is. Okay, we call that difference of angle of view is called parallax. It's what allows us to triangulate and figure out where something is in space, because we actually have two eyes working as one. Okay, when we just have one eye, when we're just using one eye to see something, okay, we call the use of just one eye a monocular image. When we use the other eye, we call it a monocular image. But two eyes together is called binocularity. Notice that when we have both eyes open, we can only see one image. Okay, why? Because our brain takes those two monocular images, infuses it into one binocular image. Okay, and it's our binocular viewing that gives us depth perception. Okay, why is a binocular image so important? Remember, we have this parallax that gives us this triangulation, so we can tell where something is in space. That binocular image, that parallax creates what's called stereopsis. Okay, that's our highest perception of vision, is our stereo vision. Okay, stereo means three-dimensional, and opsis refers to vision, so that's our three-dimensional vision is stereopsis. Which takes us to the term accommodation. Okay, so we talked about vergence already here in monocularity and binocularity, depth perception. And with that, all that vergence is what gives us our depth perception. But when we're fixating on a target and maintain a target, we also have to keep that target clear. Okay, we don't just have to put our line to sight. We can't just point our camera at something and go, "Hey, it's clear." No, we actually have to change that focus to keep that image clear too. Okay, and that's where our accommodation comes in. Okay, inside our eyes we have muscles called ciliary muscles, and those ciliary muscles sit right behind the iris of the eye, and they're connected to our lens, our crystalline lens. Our crystalline lens is connected to those muscles by some fibers called zonules that when those muscles flex, the lens turns more of a round shape in the center, and then when those muscles relax, the lens turns flat. Okay, this changing of shape is what allows the eye to focus as something gets closer. Okay, the point of focus is supposed to be on the fovea in the back of the eye. When light comes in from far away, light's supposed to be parallel and focus directly on the fovea. Okay, if light focuses on the fovea, we should be able to see nice and clearly. But when something comes closer, light becomes more divergent, because light is divergent in nature, and pushes the point backward. Well, those muscles have to flex and change that lens to a round shape. Okay, when the lens turns round, it changes the focus and brings the point back a certain distance. How much? Okay, how much focus does those muscles have to do to bring that point of focus forward? All right, it depends on how close something is. So let's just say we're back to far away. When we're looking far away, in our system, in our eye, our ciliary muscles are completely relaxed. Our lens is flat. Light's focused on the fovea. Our accommodative system should work 0. Okay. Now, if we move something up to say 200 centimeters, okay, away. Okay, 2 meters away from our eye. So about 2 yards away from our eye. All right. Well, the light is divergent in nature, so there's a spreading apart of light. Okay, just a little bit. There's a little bit of divergence, which pushes the point back just a little bit. So to figure out how much focus we have to do, okay, we can use this formula. 100 centimeters over how far away the object is in centimeters. Okay, so if the object is 200 centimeters away, 100 over 200 equals 0.5, and we term that diopters. Okay, so we have to work plus 0.5 diopters to bring that point of focus back onto the fovea when something is 2 meters away. What about 1 meter away? 100 centimeters. 100 over 100. Now the eye has to focus plus 1. How about 50 centimeters? Well, if it's at 50 centimeters, 100 over 50 is 2.0. Now we have to work plus 2.0 diopters. How about 25 centimeters? Well, 100 over 25 is 4.0. So we have to work plus 4 to bring that point forward. Okay, so that's how much focus that our eye has to do to focus on something the closer it gets. And then as an object moves back away, then our eye has to relax its accommodation to get the focus point back to the fovea like it's supposed to be. Okay, why is that important? Okay, because in the real world, that's how that works. Is that the closer something gets, the different distances have different amounts that the eye has to focus. But when we're in virtual reality, there's a focal plane, okay? So in virtual reality, our eye actually has to focus at one distance, whatever that system is set at. Okay, so a lot of these virtual reality systems, as a target gets closer and our eyes have to change focus, we the focus system is all linked together in something called the accommodative reflex, which we'll talk about in a second. But in virtual reality, the accommodation is set at one distance, which is usually somewhere between 1 and 2 meters. Okay, so let's just say it's set at 133 centimeters. Okay, is where, and that's a good average for how far away the focal plane is for a virtual reality. So in other words, 100 over 133 is 0.75 diopters. So normally when you're wearing a virtual reality headset, you got to work 0.75 diopters. Let's compare that to when you're working on a computer. At a computer, your desktop is going to be at about 75 centimeters. So 100 over 75, that's 1.33. Notice that if you're at a computer, you got to focus more. Instead of 0.75 in virtual reality, you got to focus 1.33 on a computer. How about if you have your phone? What if you got your phone out and you're looking at it at 40 centimeters? Well, 100 over 40 is 2.5. So if you're looking at your phone, that's 2.5 diopters of work of focus, of accommodation that your eye has to do, versus 1.33 diopters of focus if you're working on your desktop, versus 0.75 if you're in virtual reality. So notice that your eyes don't have to work so hard in comparison to a phone and a desktop. Your eyes have an easier job of it in virtual reality. Interesting, right? Okay, so let's discuss how much focus we can actually provide. So at 10 years old, okay, we have something called the amplitude of accommodation. So if we actually are, let's say we're trying to look at a number that's just so small, and we have to bring that number up, and we have to focus until we can't focus it anymore. Okay, that's if you're perfect for far. Let's say, just say you don't need glasses and you're perfect, and how far can you push something up and focus on it until you lose focus. So this is just like a fraction of that. How far can you go until, I can't do it anymore? Okay, you don't have to hold it very long. You just gotta get it there until you lose it. Okay, that's called our amplitude of accommodation. All right. Little kids have amazing amplitude of accommodation. Their lens in their eye is really, really flexible. Okay. It's not that their muscles are so much stronger, it's just that their lenses are really flexible. They can focus a lot. Matter of fact, I got to refer to these off my chart here, but when a little kid is focused on something, doing the amplitude accommodation test, they can bring it all the way up to about 7 centimeters, okay? 100 over 7, it ends up converting to about 14.25 diopters of focus. That's amazing. I couldn't even imagine that. 14.25. Now, only for a fraction of a second. They can't hold that. That's not easy. Okay, that's like, I can hold 200 pounds for a second. But, that's still quite significant. Now, a matter of fact, that 10-year-old, when you can hold that pretty good, all the way up to about 20 years old, you still have some really good amplitude of accommodation. You can actually focus things up to about a distance of 10 centimeters, even by the age of 20. That's pretty amazing too. I don't remember that, but so 10 centimeters, 100 over 10, that's a focus of 10 diopters of focus in the eye. Okay, that the eye can kick in with the amplitude of accommodation. Still pretty amazing. Now let's jump ahead to about 40 years. So go from 20 years old to 40 years old. At 40 years old, the closest that you can go is 20 centimeters before it breaks. Okay, remember, that's only for a fraction of a second. Okay, and so 100 over 20, that's 5 diopters of maximal focus that an eye can kick in. All right, so something happens interesting at about the age of 40, though. At the age of 40, our lens in our eye, this crystalline lens that is really flexible, it's starting to obviously lose its flexibility as time goes by, but after 40 it really takes this dive. Okay, once you hit that 5 diopter amplitude, things start to really drop down because that lens really starts to harden. Matter of fact, by the age of 50 years old, the max you can kick in on a good day when you're awake and everything is going right is you can focus at the closest of about a book for just a fraction of a second before you lose it. All right. And so in other words, 100 over 40, and that'll get you to about 2.5 diopters of focus. All right. Once you get to 60, 0. all your focus is gone. Okay, that lens really has hardened up. Now, there are other things that contribute to the loss of focus. I always blame it on the lens because the lens is the biggest contributory factor of losing your accommodation. But those muscles, they get a little bit weaker. And the zonules, they get a little looser. So there's other factors that contribute to the loss of accommodation, but for the most part, it's that hardening of the lens that we lose it. Okay. So again, the amplitude of accommodation, you might go, somebody at 50 years old can still focus 2.25. Remember, that's only for a fraction of a second. Okay. But if we're going to talk about comfort and how long we can maintain focus, okay, comfortably, well, first of all, for even little kids, even this 10-year-old, the World Council of Optometry suggests that children shouldn't read any closer than 12 inches. Okay, 12 inches is about 30 centimeters. So in other words, the World Council of Optometry is saying that kids shouldn't even focus any more than 3.33 diopters of focus. All right, somebody that's 50 years old can't really hold any focus for beyond a fraction of a second. It's zero. Okay, what's comfortable for somebody that's 50 years old? No focus. They don't want to focus at all. All right. So, by the way, when you lose focus between 40 and 53, that loss of focus, that hardening of the lens, that's called presbyopia. Okay. So by 50, we want to do zero. So in other words, comfortable focus is going to be somewhere, of long term. So if we're going to, sit and wear VR here for any period of time, we're not going to want to do any more from 0 to 325. Have a range of focus anywhere between 0 and 325. So remember, as I just said, is most of them are set up for somewhere between 1 and 2 meters. So anywhere between a half and a full diopter. And that can be a problem for people that are over 50, right? Okay. So if you have no focus, and these things, in order to see with VR, you have to focus 0.75 or, half a diopter. It's not real serious. Okay. Because that doesn't create a lot of blur. Okay. But if you're already a little farsighted, you're not wearing glasses, and you put these things on, and it's all additive. So let's say you need a half diopter of focus of glasses, but you're not wearing them. And then you get into this, and now this is 0.75 off, right? That half plus 0.75 is now 1.25. Now that actually is notably blurry. Okay, that can be blurry for you. But let's say you're on the other side. You're a half diopter of nearsighted, but you don't wear glasses. Well, that plus 75 minus that half diopter of nearsightedness, now you're only 0.25 off, so it's not that big a deal. So depending on what your situation is, a lot of people that don't wear glasses and think they're fine. One person that doesn't wear glasses might go, hey, these VR headsets are great. If you're over 50 years old or even over 40 years old, you might go, these are great. Where the next person might go, oh man, my eyes are really straining, and it's very hard after a little bit of time. So the experience that you get obviously is going to be a lot different for people that are 30 and under than people that are 40 and under. 30 to 40, I don't know. We'll find out. But for the most part, yeah, I think that these things are a nice thing about this one, you can, like this Quest, you can wear your glasses right underneath of it. But some of them, like the new Apple Vision Pro, if you're off, if you might want to just get the Apple Vision Pro and then figure out how you feel with it. If you don't think you need glasses, but then you put them on, you're like, oh man, this just does not feel good. You might want to get those inserts that go into your VR to make it more comfortable. So you have a more comfortable experience because with that accommodation. So accommodation in itself is set at one plane, and if you have the right focus when you have the VR headset on, you're set. Okay, so and that is that's different because in the real world the accommodation always has to change. But for somebody that's over 40, or over 50, if once you get locked in, I'll talk to you about this in a little second. Once you get locked in, you're set on focus. So that's kind of cool, right? I kind of, once I have my prescription on and I'm locked in and something looms towards me, I don't really care about the Vergence-Accommodation conflict that I'm going to talk about because at least I'm clear. Okay. I'll deal with the Vergence-Accommodation conflict. Again, more about that in a second. All right. So I'm referring to accommodation as focused. I'm talking about focus point and everything. But sometimes when we're talking about focus, sometimes and I've done this in one of my videos when I was talking about the Apple Vision Pro, and I was talking about focusing across the room. Okay, we can relax our eyes when we focus across the room and look at that screen. And boy, it set a lot of people on fire. I'd be like, no, your focus is set at one plane. Okay, I don't disagree with that. And this is what this video is about. But when we look far away, sometimes when we're talking about focus, we're talking about something called the accommodative reflex, the accommodation reflex. The accommodation reflex has to do with our line of sight, our vergence associated with our accommodation, associated with our pupillary response. Okay, so just for example, let's say, and I use this in my article when I wrote it up, is that let's say Robin Hood is in a tournament and he's shooting arrows at a target. Okay, we would say, okay, he's focusing on his target. When he's focusing on his target, is he really, because that target is across the yard, is he really, flexing his focus muscles to get that target cleaned up? No, it is far enough away to where he's probably not even using those ciliary muscles to clean up that image at all. Matter of fact, he's probably using his vergence part of his focus. Okay, so when we're talking about changing that lens, I would call that accommodation. But when we're trying to maintain binocularity to try to triangulate the distance of our target, that is less commonly said, used as focus. But I mean, think about it. Robin Hood is focusing on his target. He's actually using his vergence part of his focus system, of his accommodative reflex. So sometimes we erroneously say focus when we're talking about the whole accommodative reflex. At least I do. Okay, and maybe you guys are better at it than I. But be aware that sometimes it is used erroneously, and by me. So if you're listening to anything that I'm saying, sometimes I'm referring to the combination of all of them. So when I say that the focus is relaxed, I often am terming this under the accommodative reflex, relaxation of the vergence muscles, and not so much the accommodation of the ciliary muscles. So, and it's not just me. So other people will quite often use those interchangeably without even realizing that they're doing it, without even recognizing what they're referencing, because we so commonly do it. Okay, so just be aware of that. So I did talk about this a little bit ago. I mean, at the beginning, is that your accommodative reflex is the vergence of your eyes associated with the combination of the ciliary muscles and the change of the lens with the size of the pupil, right? So we look far away, vergence relaxes, ciliary muscles relax, pupil gets large. We look up close, the vergence muscles work, the ciliary muscles work, the pupil gets smaller. Okay, that's our accommodative reflex. It all works together smoothly in the natural real world. Okay. There are things that can mess with our accommodative reflex, like presbyopia, the hardening of that lens. Anything that disrupts that system, anything that disrupts that focus, or really disrupts the pupil, or disrupts the movement of those muscles, can disrupt our vision. Matter of fact, in the office, when somebody comes in, we assess those. We assess vergence and accommodation in the pupils all the time to determine if something is going wrong. When we disrupt the accommodative reflex in VR, well, we may have to work around it, but that doesn't mean that our system is bad. Our body is bad, or our eyes are bad. It just means that it's different than what's normal. So our brain has to figure out another way to work around it. So here's one example of how the accommodative reflex can kind of bother vision. Okay, so sometimes when somebody has hyperopia or is farsighted, light, when they're looking far away, remember, light's supposed to focus on their fovea, and instead light focuses behind their fovea. When light focuses behind the fovea, just to see far away, their muscles have to work. Okay, if their muscles have to work, then, well, what's connected to the focus system? Okay, what's connected? The Vergence system, right? So when somebody's looking far away, sometimes when they're farsighted, the focus system tells the Vergence system, hey, we're looking at something up close here. So the Vergence system turns on, and the eyes want to cross while they're focusing to see far away. Well, that's kind of bad, right? You know, when we're supposed to be keeping our eyes in line and looking far away, and yet they're working and focusing. Well, then at least one eye is going to stay on target, and the other one crosses instead. So people who have this farsightedness and where the accommodative reflex kicks in and causes one eye to turn in, we call that refractive esotropia or refractive strabismus. Okay, strabismus means that the eye is turning one way or the other. Esotropia means that it's turning inward, and we can correct that by relaxing the focus system in the first place. Okay, so if we shut off that over focus, if we put a pair of glasses on these eyes and bring that point of focus back to the fovea, then the eyes will realign looking far away. Okay, so some people that wear plus lenses, in other words, plus lenses make their eyes bigger. When their glasses are on, their eyes are nice and aligned. They take their glasses off, all of a sudden one eye goes in. You know, and that's because they have refractive esotropia. Okay, and that's just an example of the accommodation reflex kind of doing its job. So let's talk about the Vergence-Accommodation conflict once again. All right, so what it really is that when we're wearing a headset, all right, so we have two displays here, and each display provides a different image for each eye. All right, and just like the real world, as something gets closer, our eyes have to cross more to keep it in target, and our eyes have to go. So our Vergence system is nicely controlled. You know, it acts just like the real world because each eye receives its own image, and our Vergence system works quite naturally. And that's why we can have binocularity in these headsets. But the accommodative system, remember we said, is set at one distance, at about a 0.75 diopter focus. So whether we're looking far away or up close, okay? So we've just messed with the entire accommodative reflex, okay? It's got to work unnaturally for our vision to function within VR. And some people find it very disruptive, okay? It makes them really seasick. All right, there is a way to get over it. Well, first of all, wear your best correction. That would be my first recommendation. Wear your best correction before you start making any decisions on whether you hate it or not. And next, just kind of fight through it. All right, your brain will figure it out. Our brains are pretty smart. They're very adapted to something like that. They can get over it. Okay, this weird feeling. It doesn't. This disruptive nature of the accommodative to the accommodative reflex in the Vergence-Accommodation conflict. Yeah, it can make you seasick. Yeah, you might be disoriented when you get out, but the more you expose your brain to it, the easier it'll be for your brain to understand it, and the more your brain can start separating, you know, these functions so that Vergence and accommodation work for virtual reality. Now, is that going to disrupt how you walk around the day? Okay? No. All right. So if you've driven a car your whole life, and then all of a sudden you have to learn to ride a motorcycle, and you learn to ride a motorcycle, are you going to go get in a car and go, oh, I forgot how to drive this thing because I drove a motorcycle, because I learned to drive a motorcycle? That's not how it works. Okay. Our brain can learn to drive a car and a motorcycle. Our brain can learn to function in the real world. Okay. It's really good at that one already. But it can also function in virtual reality without any harm or any disruption to your natural experience. Okay. Yep, you might get sick, and a lot of people will take this idea of, oh, I'm getting so seasick, it must be harmful for my eyes. Okay, it must be damaging my brain because it feels really bad. That's not. There's no evidence for that. Okay, I mean maybe if you're going, the evidence is that I'm sick. Or anything in excess can be harmful. Okay, that there's I can buy that, you know, overindulging in virtual reality can be harmful psychologically, can make you oversick and, you know, make your eyes hurt and dry and stuff like that. But to say that it's actually harming the eye or harming the brain in some way, that's not proven. You got to have to come out with some lots of proof that is supported by other tests that show the same thing before I'm going to be convinced of anything like that. Okay, because right now it's just something that you have to adapt to. But the accommodation conflict is real. So I guess the next question would be is, can we correct this? Okay, are they trying to fix this? Yeah, I know that there's lots of designs out there that they're working on. I was kind of wondering if the Vision Pro would do something, but I guess they didn't. They're still doing that single vision or single plane focus, like the other designs are. But the designs that are being made, there's different ways to go about it. Okay, so right now there's just a single plane, just say, for example, set at that plus 75 distance that we were talking about. Well, there's also designs that are called multifocal. Don't confuse it with multifocal glasses, okay? But there's multifocal designs for virtual reality. So the virtual reality has its they should almost call it multi-planes instead of multifocal, though there are multifocal depths, okay? So just for example, there might be a plane at plus 75. There might be a plane at plus 1, and another plane at plus 125, or another one at 150, another one at 175, another one at 2, all right? There might be another one at 0. So they can have all these different ones. So as you look at these different target at different distances, your eye still has to focus on these different focal lengths, okay? And that would give more of a sense that the accommodative reflex can work together, okay? The nice part about having a multifocal design is that it's possible. I mean, it's you don't have to have any kind of eye tracking system or anything like that. You just have to build something that has these different focal lengths in it. You could have two. When we say a multifocal design, that could be that anything more than one plane. So you could just have two planes. You could have near and far. You could have near, middle, and far. Okay. You could have three planes. You have 4. I don't think they have to really overdo it, because remember, the closest we can possibly come is about a plane of 325. Okay, and that's only going to be appreciated by little kids anyway, or for people under 20, that's kids to me. But so you could have this multi-plane design. Okay, or multifocal design. Now, there's another design to try to fix this whole Vergence-Accommodation conflict that's going on, and that's called the varifocal design. The varifocal design has more of a smooth transition that works more like the eye. So you look far away as a target looms, so it would be very much like the real-world experience, okay? But in order for that to happen, you'd really have to be able to track the eyes perfectly, to see where the eyes are looking and figure out how much accommodation that the eye has to kick in. So it has to have a very, highly sensitive tracking system for the eyes. But they are being designed out there, okay? But a little bit more difficult probably to make that. There's another design is called light field displays. And what light field displays do is instead of using a tracking system, so it's kind of like the multifocal is it doesn't have doesn't require a tracking system, but it's like the varifocal in that it kind of lets the eye naturally focus from far to near, but it just uses designs in how light enters through the lens for the eye to focus. So to wrap it up, for the most part, is the Vergence-Accommodation conflict that's associated with virtual reality. It is disruptive, okay, no doubt about it. It's disruptive, but technology is getting better, okay. So our designs of resolution is getting better, lag is getting slower, the images are getting sharper, real-world experiences are being thrown in there. There's so much that are going into making the image quality better that it's making the Vergence-Accommodation conflict less of a problem, okay. So a lot of the finger pointing is going, Vergence-Accommodation conflict is causing all my problems, and that's, it's so horrible, it's making me sick. Okay, well, that's some of it, okay, but there's a much bigger picture. It's a cumulative problem, okay? The cool thing about these newer designs is the images are getting sharper and sharper. The problems associated with virtual reality are getting less and less. To me, let me give you my feel on this. I don't have a problem with the single plane focus distance right now. Okay, I'm 51, so my focus system is gone. I like that the focus is set at one distance. All right, I don't have a functioning accommodative reflex anyway. Okay, so kids may have a problem with it because they're used to using their focusing system. Well, guess what? Mine's shot. so you go and you fix that accommodative reflex thing. Okay, for me, I'm going to have a hard time focusing on things that get close because I can't see anything right now without my glasses. The reason I'm wearing my glasses because sometimes I'm looking down at my screen. If I don't have these glasses, I'm reaching for my glasses. Okay, so people over 40 are probably, I mean, you might think you want it, but if you get it, you might be a little upset because you're going to be like, hey, how come I can't see? I don't mind the system the way it is. I personally, I think there's a lot of extra money put into it to try to fix it. I think that's cool. If you're looking to hit a target audience of under 40, that's okay. And it would definitely serve to make a real world experience better. But I'm happy the way it is. I like it. I like it that all I have to do is just wear my glasses and I can see things whether they're far or near. Sure, I got a little disoriented at first when I wore them, but now I'm over it. And I think most of the VR users are over it. Okay, now if you're a new user or you really haven't invested a lot of time, and if you're using older designs, older VR, well, there were so many things that were out of whack that that those older designs did make you real seasick. But the newer designs with the higher quality and stuff, gosh, I'm past it. Okay, so in matter of fact, when I give somebody some glasses, a lot of times I'll give somebody progressives and I'll say, hey, it's going to take about a month to adapt. Just wear them, quit your whining, and get over it. I call it boot camp for the eyeballs. Okay, fight your way through it. Okay, you got a month to get it, and don't leave boot camp, because if you leave boot camp, then you haven't earned it. Okay, and you'll probably never go back. But if you fight through boot camp at the end of boot camp, it's yours and it's yours forever. Okay. Same thing with this VR. Fight through it, okay? If you get it and you're like, oh, I'm getting seasick, you can get over it, okay? Just expose your brain. The only way for your brain to get over it is to experience it. And once your brain experiences it enough, you'll adapt enough, and then the weirdness will go away, okay? You'll get your sea legs, okay? You'll get over your motion sickness. And in the end, even if you are motion sick, remember, it's not harming your eyes. It's just your brain is trying to figure out how to adapt to not only the Vergence-Accommodation Conflict, but some of the other problems that are out there. But again, the problems are getting less and less, and virtual reality is becoming much more immersive than ever before. So enjoy. Thanks for watching Your Eye Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hopefully we'll see you soon at our next video. See ya.